Hey everyone, this is Jason Emerson with Inside Cool Music Magazine, where we bring you compelling stories from authentic musicians. Today I am speaking with Bobby Owsinski, mixer, producer, one of the best-selling authors in the music industry. His books on music, recording, and the music business are staples in the industry, and many of them are taught at colleges and universities around the world. His books include titles such as The Mixing Engineer's Handbook, The Music Producer's Handbook, The Music Business Advice Book, Music 4.0, a survival guide for making music in the internet age. And one of his recent books, now in its third edition, which we're going to talk specifically about today, Social Media Promotion for Musicians, which is right there over my shoulder. Now, Bobby also writes blogs, does podcasts, offers online courses. He writes and appears on major news outlets as an industry expert, and his work garners millions of views and fans every year. Whew, I hope I didn't forget. I know I didn't say everything, but Bobby, thank you so much for being with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Jason.
Today, I really want to focus on your book, Social Media Promotion for Musicians. But before we get into that, can you tell us a bit of your background and how you got into the business and how you ultimately became an expert on so many facets of the music industry?
Well, I started like everybody else. I was a player, and I was a player primarily until I was about 40, although I spent a lot of time in the studio as well, but I was, a touring musician.
Mhm.
And then I just hit a wall, decided I didn't want to do that anymore, and then went into the studio for, the second half of my career as a engineer and a producer, not so much as a player.
Mhm.
But what happened right before I stopped touring was I was on a tour bus and the bass player came on and said, I just got a job writing for the music paper. And the music paper was a weekly paper all about music in New York. So it had all the gigs. It's just about music. It was a great,
Great.
great piece, actually. And for some reason, I thought, if he could do that, so can I. So I started to call around, and I happened to get an assignment from Mix Magazine, my very first one. And it's funny because I looked at it recently, and it was pretty terrible, actually. But that being said, it started me off on a whole other career writing about music. And first, it was just magazine articles, and I must have done 1,000 of them. For maybe that's exaggerating, but hundreds.
Right.
And it was, for about a dozen different magazines, everything you can think of that had to do REP, a Mix, a Grammy magazine, Billboard. That being said, it was a part-time thing. I was still in the studio working. I was a really good recording engineer, but I was not a good mixer.
Mhm.
And I thought to myself, I really want to find out how to do this. So I happen to know the best mixers in the world because I was interviewing them and I was working with them.
Mhm.
And I decided to call them up and ask them. And after about 25 interviews, that became my first book, which is the Mixing Engineer's Handbook.
Mhm.
Surprisingly enough, everybody said you can't write a book about mixing because it's so intangible that nobody can do that.
Right.
But I managed to, and since there was no other books on mixing, it was an instant hit. The publisher kept on beating me up, so that became the Recording Engineer's Handbook, the Mastering Engineer's Handbook, and a bunch of different handbooks. And next thing you know, I'm in the 24 books or 25 books. Um, that's just in the industry. I've written a few outside of the music industry as well.
Mhm.
So I've done this a lot as a writer, and it became a second career writing about the music business, and then doing online courses as well, and just went to places I never expected.
Your book here, Social Media Promotion for Musicians, one of your newest books, is it's so user friendly. It's very well written, and it's full of practical advice and tips and how to's and examples and things. And it seems to me that today, I mean, social media promotion has to be one of the most important aspects for being a successful musician and spreading spreading one's brand. So why and how did you come to write this book?
Well, I was lucky in that I had a lot of really good teachers in social media, and these are gurus. These were gurus of gurus. And it came again by accident. I had someone from a label that asked me to come to a Saturday morning tech breakfast. And this became an ongoing thing. And it was a series of tech entrepreneurs and attorneys, tech attorneys, and artists, and just people that were into tech of all different types. But I was able to rub elbows with not founders, but people that were early hires of Google and Facebook and you name it, YouTube and Blogger. So when it was time for me to get online, I knew who to call for help. And they did. They helped me a lot. So I felt that I was kind of one up on everybody because I had a lot of again help from gurus and the real people that were doing it. It got to the point, I have to say, where a few years ago I called back around to some of these people, and they said, "You know what? You probably know more than I do in this particular space now."
Right.
I mean, they have more of a global view of things at this point than a practical view, but they were very helpful. So it helped me to do very well quickly,
Mhm.
and as a result, I thought, well, yeah, same thing. If I want to know this, there's probably other people that do as well. So let me write a book about it.
Right. And it's already in its third edition, which obviously means that there is an audience for it, I think. I know I
Actually, what
was excited.
happened was I wrote the Music 3.0 book first that had a lot of social media in it. And
Mhm.
I found that it became Music 3.0, Music 4.0, until the publisher stopped supporting it. But there was a lot of the feedback I was getting from that book was on social media. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I should just do a version, an expanded version on that.
Right. Listen to your audience. One of the important lessons in that book. Now, at the beginning of the book, you write that it's important, actually, kind of imperative to recognize that social media is really what you call online word of mouth. And so why is that so important? Why is that something that you brought up right at the beginning? Do a lot of people not realize the importance of that?
I think in general, people don't understand the power of social media and what that means to their career.
Mm.
So they approach it strictly as a user, and you can't. If you're
Right.
an artist, if you're a musician, if you're someone who wants to take advantage of social media, then you have to think of it in terms of how can I use this for promotion rather than just as a user, because it's two different mindsets.
Right.
That's what the whole book is about. It's about trying to change the mindset of, look, I can't just do this the way I always did.
Mhm.
And it's funny because what ended up happening was I think there's a general misconception that if you're young, you automatically know how to do this. Well,
Right.
no,
That's true. Yeah.
you know how to use it very well, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you know how to use it for promotion.
Right.
And it's funny. I had a guy online that he was saying, I need help. I need a consultant. And I don't do that anymore, but he was bugging me and bugging me. And finally he said, can you call me? So I called him and he said, look, I need a young guy like you to really help out. And I was older than he was. So it just goes to show you that it's not necessarily the realm of the young.
Right. Absolutely. Now, this book is it's really encyclopedic, I think. I mean, you discuss Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, LinkedIn, as well as having a general website, newsletter, blogs, being on playlists. Now, that's a lot to take in. But what do you find as perhaps the most important element of all these things, social media promotion? that musicians seem to either overlook or maybe they just don't even know or understand. Is there anything specific, or is it a little bit of everything?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is you can't be on all the platforms. You
Right.
can't and do a good job. The general wisdom, and I think it's true, you have to be on one and get really good at it before you go to something else.
Hmm.
Now, that being said, for most artists, they're forced to be on at least two.
Right.
So that could mean Instagram and YouTube, which it's not so much of a stretch if you're on IGTV to do that.
Hmm.
It might mean TikTok and Instagram. Again, not so much of a stretch. It could be Facebook and YouTube.
Hmm.
So it there's one part where you need videos, so you have to generate them and put them on a platform somewhere.
Right.
And you also need a purely social platform in order to promote everything, promote yourself, promote your music. So, like I say, comes out that you're on two platforms no matter what. But I mean, the best strategy would be just do one and be really good at it, and then go to the second one,
Really,
or
that's
and third if you get good at that
right.
one. But I find it impossible. For instance, I stopped posting YouTube videos because it was like, this is exhausting. I just don't have enough time.
Yeah.
And uh, especially videos because they're labor intensive.
Yeah, see, I would think that I mean I've done a lot of reading on social media, and I've read a number of things that said you should be on at least 5 social media platforms if you want your brand to succeed. And I remember reading that and thinking what you just said, like, man, that's a lot of work. I don't know how much time you would have to actually devote to your music if you're spending your whole day on all these different social media platforms to promote your music that you don't have time to make.
I think that's one of the tenets of the book, where it's, look, you probably don't want to do this because you want to be with, doing your music. So you
Right.
want to spend the least amount of time. Let me show you how to do this, how to get the most out of the least amount of time, be really efficient doing it.
Hmm.
So that, frankly, I'm on three platforms consistently, which is Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Hmm.
But Twitter, I don't use Twitter like most people. I use it as a broadcast medium rather than a conversational medium. That's not the way to do it. But frankly, I don't care. It's just easy for me to post.
Right.
So it's one of those things where I'm present on it, but I'm not engaging in conversation
Hmm.
like the other platforms. So again, you have to pick and choose how that works.
Right.
When you use, I use Hootsuite for instance, which makes it easy to post.
Right. That's
To
great. You post them all at once and schedule them out.
I schedule them out. Usually, I'll write whatever I have to write the day before. So the morning before, I write for the next day.
Okay.
And I just schedule it so it posts at the right time. Timing is important. Surprisingly enough, it does change all the time, but not by all that much.
Hmm.
So if you want to get the most eyeballs, you have to post at the right time. So it doesn't do you much good if you're posting at 11 o'clock at night or 2 in the morning or something like that.
Right. On a Sunday. Right. Yeah. I thought that was a great point of the book where you break down every day of the week what's good or bad about posting on that day, and then what time of day works better or worse, which I thought was incredibly useful. And probably something a lot of people don't think about. As you were saying, people think, oh, I know how to use it. I'm ready. I'm going to post it. And then, yeah, 10 o'clock on a Sunday night, it's not going to get the eyeballs that it would on a, 3 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon, say something like that. So now Facebook, I find interesting because, as you say, and as everybody says, it's the big daddy, it's the gorilla in the room, has billions of users. And as you say in the book, it's almost mandatory that people should use it for promotion. But do you think that do you think as many people use it as they should? Because it's probably one of the oldest platforms out there. I could see, like, I know my daughter who's 18 and all of her friends, they're not on it because that's what old people use is Facebook. And she's on the, TikTok Instagram, all those. But Facebook, as you say, really has the most eyeballs and has the most potential for promotion and exposure. Was I reading that correct? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, there's 2.2 billion people, and it's still growing, believe it or not.
Really?
Um, One of the things I find interesting is that if you look at the numbers, I mean, you hear anecdotally that young people are not on it, but that's not the case if you look at the statistics. They are. And I think that maybe they don't tell other people that they
Right.
don't
They don't want to admit they're on there.
admit it, but they are.
Right.
It could be that, and this does fluctuate as well. And I look at numbers a lot. I look at all the reports that come in.
Mhm.
I just find it fascinating. So you do see it going up and down. So you'll find, okay, well, it seems to be down this year in terms of 12 to 18, and then you'll read something. Well, this report says no, there's more of them watching, but there's no mass defection
Right.
from what the numbers say.
Hmm. And you never know too. I mean, Facebook's been around for a while. I mean, as you know, as you've stated, and most people who are above a certain age know, MySpace used to be the place to go, and it's most people. I honestly didn't know it existed anymore. But in your book, you say it's still out there. I thought it was gone because it had been swept over by all the other behemoths. But yeah, like TikTok, not something that I personally am really a fan of, although it is growing exponentially, it seems to be. But I've always thought it seems difficult to promote yourself on TikTok because really you just see people like doing funny dances to an existing song, pretty much. Is that am I wrong in that? TikTok something that should be looked at seriously for promoting a band?
That seems to get the most press.
Yeah.
I mean, there are other things that TikTok is good for, but the fact and TikTok just changed because first they were in 30-second increments and 60-second, and now it's up to 3 minutes, 3 minutes long. So now we're getting longer videos. That's possible. TikTok tends to look to see they're very good at finding who's doing well and then promoting them,
Mhm.
as opposed to other platforms that don't necessarily do that. You make it or break it on your own. But TikTok does have a really good creator community
Mhm.
that they really push hard. So they help make their own stars in a way.
Right.
How do you get in that? Well, for music, it's really difficult. In one way, it's easy, and another way, it isn't. The easy part is you don't need a whole song. All you need is a hook. If
Right.
a hook catches on, all sorts of people are going to be using that hook to do whatever their
Right.
meme is. But it's getting enough traction on that hook.
Right. And having something real to create rather than trying too hard to create the hook that will make you a sensation rather than coming up with something that's authentic that becomes sensational on its own. Seems to me, I could see that. The harder you try, in many instances, it seems to me the easier you fail because you're trying too hard to be a success at what you're creating rather
Labels
than just
are
doing
trying, and they keep falling in their face,
it. Right.
and they have the infrastructure to be able to do that.
Right. Now, one thing that I should say, another thing that really struck me. So I've been a journalist for over 20 years, and you mention on just a general website, really the first thing you talk about in the book, which is probably the most important, as you say, you need a central hub. You have all these tentacles out for social media, but you need one place for people to come and find everything if they're out on your other platforms. Um, so you were mentioning on your website the importance of having a press section. Now, I can tell you as a journalist of so long in many different mediums, as you know as well, how frustrating it is if you want to do a story and you go to somebody's website and there's no press and there's no bio, there's no contact, there's no photos, there's no videos or logos. Um, for me, if I had the choice, I would forget that artist, company, whatever, and find someone else who has a better press section. So Is it common for artists to leave this out, or maybe speak a little bit about the import of that?
As you know, it is common for artists to overlook that.
Yeah.
Well, I think when people think press, they think this is the press I've garnered. I don't have any, so I'm
Hmm.
not going to put the section up. But it's not the case. It's and maybe I should be more specific on this. It's for the press.
Hmm.
So it's all those things that the press can use later if they're going to write about you, which is bio, picture, an extended bio, pictures, logos, graphics, links to videos, links to songs, all those things, awards. That's where it ought to be.
Right.
Because as you know, if you make it easy for a journalist, they're going to write about you. They're going
Exactly. Yep.
to.
Yeah, we're all overworked. The easier someone can make it for us, the more we'll be drawn to it.
It makes me crazy too, because sometimes I'm looking to find information and can't find it, or you have to go to, 5 or 6 different sites in order to get what you want.
Right.
Frustrating.
Another thing I thought was great that I think people probably overlook is the importance of emails and having an email list. And again, I think it could be an age thing, whereas I could see younger people thinking that email is kind of old school, and it's, yeah, I'll just put it up on Facebook, or I'll just put it up on Instagram. Talk a little bit about why bands and artists should have email list and emails that they send out periodically.
I think that an email list is one of the most powerful tools that an artist, a musician, a band can have. The reason being that there's so many contacts that you have, that the only way that you can keep in contact with them, you can't do it one on one, you can't make phone calls. The easiest way to do it is with the newsletter.
Right.
And I've found myself that there's lots of newsletters that I get that I look forward to. I put them in the book, some of them that I would look at these and I think, I don't know these people, but I know a lot about them now,
Right.
and I want to know more. So next time I want to come in, it's like, oh yeah, okay, so you work with that person now. Oh, cool.
Right.
It's very powerful. The whole secret, and one of the things that I do is I have an online course called Fully Booked, which helps people stay keep their calendar filled with work. And this would be, musicians, it would be composers, it would be engineers, producers. And the whole secret is keeping in touch with your client base and with your contacts. And especially if you have a lot of them over a career, there's no easy way to do that one on one. So the only way you can do it is with the newsletter
Right.
to scale. And that's why it's so powerful. And people begin there are, as you know, you can have a conversation with the friend and never pass the information that you wanted
Right.
to that friend. But a newsletter will do it in a flash.
Right.
And I tell them that the whole secret is you're not boasting, you're not bragging, you're just informing. You're telling people what you just did, what you're doing now, and what you're about to do.
Right.
Pretty
That's
simple.
really the name of the whole game here, is just kind of communicating.
One of again, kind of another career as I've gone to online courses. It's like, okay, you have these courses, so we got to learn how to market them. So I would take some digital marketing courses myself, and it keeps on being beaten home that the more you email, the more money you make.
Really.
Here's an example. The As a writer, I had 20 some books, and I thought to myself, I can put another book out. I'm not going to make that much more money in the end. I have to figure out something else here to break through the ceiling.
Right.
So I happened to find a guy online called Steve Harrison who specializes in helping authors. And he helps special, and he helps get them online. And
Mhm.
he helped me a great deal.
Yeah.
So he had a conference, and I flew to Cherry Hill, New Jersey, to this conference, and we're in a ballroom of a hotel, and there's about 1,000 people show up.
Wow.
And one of the first things he says is, "Okay, how many people have gotten 10 emails from me?" 1,000 people put their hand up. How many people have gotten 100 emails? 1,000 people put their hand up. How many people have gotten 500? Most people put their hands up. And he keeps on goosing up the number, and there are people that are raising their hand. He says, "Okay, I'm just proving a point here. The more I email every month, the more money I make."
Huh.
So it just goes to show you that, in fact, there's people will tolerate that. Now, I don't push it that far. I tried to give my mailing list some breathing room,
Right.
and I don't push it that far. But that being said, it's been proven to me that it does work.
Yeah, I would think there would probably be a line. I don't know what the line would be where people might start getting annoyed by the emails, or as you say, if you're posting on social media, if you post too many times a day, you can lose your audience rather than engage them further.
Yeah, that's true. With email, it's kind of different, especially if you're adding value.
Mhm.
There's one particular guy that he does email almost every day, and it's uh, I originally took a course on Amazon advertising because of my books. I
Right.
advertise on Amazon, and next thing you know, every day he's selling a different course. It's not necessarily for him; it's an affiliate with somebody
Mhm.
else. But every day, or there's another email. The fact of the matter is, it's usually interesting stuff. So even though I don't take these, I'm kind of interested to see what he's doing.
Right.
So I never sign off on his mailing list.
Right.
There are people that they're sending me stuff that I just don't care about and I find irrelevant, so they're
Right.
gone to flat.
Right. So another good lesson of make sure that your content is engaging and interesting of whatever you do. I would say Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, website, emails, and same with music. If you don't have quality um, production that you're making, then it doesn't really matter what you do if people don't want to read it or look at it or hear it.
One thing I always tell my students is never feel bad if somebody unsubscribes because they were not your client. They were not going to get you work. They were not
Right.
going to be important to your career anyway. So just be thankful because you don't have to pay for them.
One thing I thought was great, hashtags. I kind of thought that hashtags were, I'd read that they're kind of old news. Like we really shouldn't be using them anymore because it doesn't really make a difference. But you make a different point in your book. What do you think of the use of hashtags?
Well, again, I look at the studies on this. So there's lots of them, and every year I bet I read 4 or 5. There's probably every couple months there's another study on this.
Really?
And what we find is from year to year that does change a little bit, but not so much the fact that we shouldn't be using them, it's how many
Hmm.
and what kind. Now, what happened with Twitter, there was a lot of vanity hashtags. Hashtag I don't want to go to work, you know,
Right.
my boss sucks, stuff like that, where that if you're using it for promotion, that doesn't help you at all.
Right.
Hashtag is supposed to help you be discovered, help your content be discovered. So you have to be intelligent about what you use,
Mhm.
and then be intelligent about how many of them that you can use and get away with. There was a at one point in time on Instagram, for instance, I think the number was 31 that the gurus were saying you should use up to 31, which I always thought was totally ridiculous. Where
That's
it's
a
like
lot of
there's more
hashtags.
hashtags than there is content here.
Right.
And now it's down to a normal 5 to 7, which I think, okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, that seems a little bit more reasonable.
Yeah, yeah. And then it was 11 for a while, and now it's down, and it seems to be less and less, but again, the whole trick is do some research to find out what are the ones that people are looking for, what are the ones that can help you, not just the vanity ones.
Right. So something like musician, hashtag musician would be better than hashtag musicians rule the world and I'm one of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Something like that.
Yeah, I have a whole list actually of ones that I will use, and I'll use them appropriately.
Really?
So if there's content that's more like social media, then I have some that for that. If there's some that's more recording oriented, I have some for that.
Mhm.
So again, and I haven't done this in a while, but I should do a search and find out if any of that has changed.
Right. And you mentioned in the book, you actually list there's a couple of different ways that you can search for hashtags related to what you want to post, and they'll give you different versions of it or tell you what's the most popular current way to hashtag it, which
Lots
is
of good
nice.
ones out
Yeah,
there. Hashtags.org that's been I don't want to say the gold standard, but that's been around longer than anything. It's one
really.
of the cool ones, and there's a few.
That's great.
And you can just find organically sometimes. You do a search. We put a hashtag in Twitter, for instance, and just do a search of that hashtag, and you'll see other posts come up with that hashtag and some other ones. So it will give you an idea. You'll go, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, that one could work too.
What is your next, what are you working on right now? Kind of your upcoming projects? I'm sure you must have a few ongoing, considering your output seems very prolific.
I'm in the middle of a launch for a new online course. It's the top 40 mixing secrets.
Great.
So it's some mixing secrets that I think are essential that everybody should know
Mhm.
and will help you with your mix. It's just some insider secrets. They're simple, they're easy, they don't take much. You don't have to spend big money on plugins, and we'll help you. So that's what I'm working on right now. I just finished up. Um, I have two training courses that basically I open them up. I get X amount of people in, and then it closes. And then we just go through training for 6 or 8 weeks. So there's a social media boot camp, there's a fully booked, and there's music mixing accelerator. So between those three, I usually have one of them going on with training for people. And that's Zoom training where we meet every week, and I go through that. There's lots of material online that they could access, but I go over it as well and then answer any questions. And so
That's
it's
great.
pretty
Six to
good.
8 weeks. So these are very in depth.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Bobby. This has been so fascinating. I really appreciate you talking to me about all of your projects and your book, especially Social Media Promotion for Musicians, which is a book I cannot recommend highly enough to all of our viewers. I think everybody should check it out. Lots of amazing tips, and you have tips and how-tos in every single chapter. So you break it down. It's very practical. So everyone, thank you so much for watching. Bobby, thank you again. Remember, everyone, please check out Bobby's books, his online courses, all of his websites. Bobby, please let us know if anybody wants more information about who you are and what you do and everything you offer. Let us know a couple of sites people can go to find out more.
The easiest one is bobbyowsinski.com, and that will lead you everywhere else. It will lead you to the blogs, to the podcasts, to the courses, to the books. So that's a pretty good central location.
Fantastic. All right. And everyone, please make sure, check out our website, insidecoolmusicmag.com, our social media sites, sign up for our newsletter. And if you have any comments or questions for Bobby about this interview, or you just have anything cool to tell us, hit the comments section below and let us know. All right. So thanks again, Bobby. This has been fantastic. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jason. Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care.